Hello, hello. Welcome to Finsweet Live. Today's build day with Alex Iglesias, Finsweet CTO. And as always, we're going to get a little technical. We will be talking about the Google Maps API today. One of the most common requests we get in the attributes channel is, how do I integrate maps with filtering? How do I integrate something custom with maps? And this is not a quick, hey, go do this and you're done. So we wanted to do this stream. We're going to do a couple other streams in the future that are really revolved around maps. And this is the first one. So Alex will walk us through the Google Maps API. We'll talk about how to integrate that with Webflow. And I will be here commentating the technical walkthrough. So Alex, what's up? How you doing?
Hey everyone, I'm good, excited. I think that we have so much to talk about Google Maps, and today we're just going to have time for about 5% of everything that you could do. But still, it's something that's really fun. There's a lot of use cases for this, from store locators or just showing specific locations on a map because you're organizing an event, or maybe you just want to display your home. I don't know, whatever. I think it's something really cool to do. In Webflow, natively in Webflow, we can embed a Google Map, but that's it. You have a bunch of settings there that you can, just tweak perhaps the appearance of it. I don't even know, and the zoom level and things like that. But that's it. That's where it gets. So with this stream, I hope that people at least can understand the basis of how to use the API from Google Maps. It exposes an API for that. And after that, if we see that there's a lot of interest in this, we know then that we can just do more streams. So that's good for us. Everyone's happy.
And it's also important to note that this is one map solution out of many. And of course, Google
Yeah.
Maps, I would think, is the most popular map solution out of all map solutions because it's Google. But there are other solutions out there. So maybe your client's asking for Google Maps, maybe they're asking for a different map, but we're focusing on Google Maps because this is what most people ask about. This is what most clients ask about. This has a lot of great things you can do with it. It's a really great product. So, Alex, you ready to get started? Well, actually, first, let's say hello to the crowd. I'm not ready to get started yet. Mika, what's up? Good morning. Hello, hello. Josh Hartman makes a huge cup of coffee. Let's talk maps. Now, Josh last week posted some really good maps content. So if you're a huge map person or you want to be a map person, go follow Josh on Twitter. He was posting some cool map stuff. Who else? Spencer, what's up? How you doing? Rhino Rain, what's up? How are you? Kai Jolly, afternoon from the UK. Michael Rose, hello, hello. Happy Friday. Eric McQuestion, hello. Tommy, just did this integration. Interesting to see what you come up with. Great. Nice, Tommy. Duncan, good afternoon from South Africa. Nice. Pixelita, great to see you. Hello. Belmont, hello from the wet UK. Great. Penny, good morning. Google Maps, yes. Nice. Nico, morning fam. Hello. Josiah, good morning. Coffee and Code, great combo. Love it. Michael Rose, hello again. And that will be it for comments. One more, Brian, how you doing? Now, also keep in mind, as you're watching this stream, this may open up more billing opportunities for you. If you're working with a company that is on Google Maps, which should be every local business, there is an opportunity to upsell something very valuable to your client. So keep an eye on this. Keep an eye on all of our maps content that will come through forever, because if you know enough about it, you can give a really good service to a client, charge them for it, and they'll be happy for that functionality. So let's make some money, and let's also start learning. Alex, let's start it.
Yeah. This is the best motivation that you can give people. Like, learn this and you will be able to charge your client for that. So I don't know if there's anything more powerful than this. Okay, so let's start. I think that I want to focus on the basics first because using the Google Maps API, it's something that it requires a little bit of setup first. And but once we're done with that, we can start, playing around with stuff. Okay, if I can share on my screen. Okay, so we're going to start with the Map JavaScript API. But before that, I wanted to give again an overview with things that you can do with this. And specifically, today I'm basing one inspiration from one specific site that has one of the most basic but wanted use cases, that it's having your own map, placing pins in the map, like you want to locate specific places and then being able to focus the pins based on, some kind of search, maybe some filtering, things like that. We can even discuss about having auto completion, because when when you're typing for a location, maybe you want to have auto completion like what Google does. So for example, in here, no winner, but we'll say you can see that I'm having auto completion here. It's easier for me, and then perhaps we can do some search, and then thanks to the search we can locate few places on a map, and then these places can have some information in the pins. This I believe that this is the most wanted things: putting a map on a site and then locating places, auto completion for the user in case that the user wants to search for it, and then when locating places, showing it on the map, with a pin, with some information, things like that. Because once you've mastered this basic stuff, these basic actions, you can build, a whole lot of things, everything that you can imagine for that requires locating something on a map. It could be locating services, could be locating places, it could be planning for a route for traveling, it could be, you can do a lot of stuff. So let's focus on that. And the first thing that we need to do is obviously set up the JavaScript API. In this case, we're using a Google service, and it's obvious that Google will want to charge us for it. You don't need to worry about that. Everyone who's following us right now, the free tier is super generous, so you can still, try this, follow along, code with us if you want to, and activate a JavaScript API yourself. But just be aware that Google is going to ask for billing details in case that you were someone big, and they could have the opportunity to charge you. That's what happens when you use a service like this, but it's expected. Anyways, I think that what I'm going to do is just walk through the documentation, because it's the best way of understanding how to set up something. I always prefer, instead of having somebody to tell me exactly what to do, let's focus on navigating the documentation and understanding, how can I read this documentation when Alex is not here to explain it to me. So I believe that, yeah, you shared already the link. So anybody who wants to follow along, just open here, or you can search in Google for Google Maps JavaScript API. And in this case, you will find this huge documentation with a lot of stuff. But the first thing that you do in a documentation is obviously read the introduction, the overview. What can I do with this API? How do I set it up? And in this case, very convenient, we have here a get started section, and I think that the first thing, let's do that. Let's just get started. Let's set up the API so everyone understands how is it done, and then let's follow along. We start coding stuff. And in this case, okay, so overview. I think that here it's just explaining a little bit about things that you can do, but we kind of already set that. So let's move on to setting this up. And in this case, you will need a Google Cloud Console account. Sorry. The reason is all the services from Google, they're all managed from a single console where you can enable, disable, add billing, add more users, things like that, for everything related to Google services. And I gotta tell you that the Finsweet SSO, it's kind of inspired from Google Cloud Console, so maybe you can see a resemblance there. Um, so everyone, if you want to follow along, you will need to have a Google Cloud Console account. Thankfully, I already have one. We have a Finsweet account for Google because we use it for some services. So in this case, we already have it. But let's see what steps do we need to follow. The first one is obviously just go to the Google Cloud account and create a new project. Can we share the link for if anybody wants to? Sending it to you, Joe. If anyone wants to follow along, Joe is sharing the link now in the comments, so you can open the console. You can create an account, and let's do the first step. Just let's create a new project. So that's it. Let's say here I want to create a new project, and this is gonna be under finsweet.com for now, because this is Finsweet, and we'll say Google Maps API stream. Let me organize it better. How's the zoom level, Joe? Thanks for
Wonderful. I can
billing.
see everything.
Yeah, nice. That's the first time that you're not jumping, asking me to zoom in. Okay, so we're just setting up a new project because in Google Cloud Console you can have multiple projects with multiple services, and that way you know exactly what you're paying for. Oh, I'm paying for this amount of money for Google Maps, but it's for a specific project, or deactivating something just for a specific project. This gives you a lot of granularity when dealing with these services. So in this case, what we're doing is just we're assigning a name just for organization. We're setting a billing account, and in our case, we already have one. But if it's your first time, you will have to create a billing account. It asks for a credit card, but this does not mean that you're going to be charged. Again, you will have a generous free tier, so don't worry, you can still follow along. And just organization location, this is just for organization purposes. Cool. So we have the project. Well, it's being created, the project, so let's move on. Well then, we already did all of this, created, we enabled billing, we already have it, and now we need to enable the APIs. And in this case, there's one API that we will use initially, and after that, there's going to be another API that I will introduce later on. But let's just focus on activating the Maps JavaScript API. This is what it's already asking me to do. So in this case, we're here. Let me select the project. Make sure that you're working on the project that you wanted to. In my case, I'm already sure. And let's go to APIs and services, because in here, it's where we can toggle on and on any kind of API that we want. Enable APIs and services. That's good. And okay, here we have a shit ton of stuff to do. Google, it's huge. There's a lot of services, but don't worry. The only thing that you need to worry about for now is the Maps JavaScript API. If you can find it here, you just click it on there, or you can also use the search and see if we can see. Yeah, Map JavaScript API is the one that we want to use for the websites. If you were coding, for Android, for Apple, whatever, there's always different APIs for that. And in this case, let's just activate this. Let's wait for a second, and if not, we'll move on. But probably this should just okay. This is okay. Cool. Not the best UX here, but okay. Say we got an API key. And this is quite dangerous now because I'm exposing this to everyone who's watching the stream. But there's one cool thing that I love about Google, and is that we can restrict the APIs based on domains. And this is the next step that we want to do, is take an API key and restrict it only for a certain domain. So everyone who's watching the stream can not only pick this API and use it on their sites and make Finsweet pay for it. We don't want that. And you don't want to do that too either. So let's, for now, I'll just copy this and I'll store it here in a comment for now. And okay, so enabling all the APIs and create budget alerts. And in this case, you can see that Google is already telling me that Google Maps has a $200 monthly credit, which is good. This means that you have to have a lot of people watching your site and interacting with your site to make up for those $200. It's actually a very generous amount. So in this case, let's just go to the platform. Okay, we're ready, I think. Oh, see, Google is already telling me, protect your API key. This is what everyone cares. So Google is already telling me to do it. And in this case, okay, so what we want to do is restrict the API, but something specific. In our case, we want to restrict it by websites. So we'll just say HTTP refers, and let me follow along with the using API keys, because everything that I'm saying, remember that it's in the documentation. So we've created an API key, but we want to restrict the API key. And in this case, the Google is already telling me the steps to follow. It's telling me to go to the credentials of that API key and select the HTTP refer API key. And in this case, we can specify a domain or multiple domains that we want to restrict for that API key. In my case, I've created a Webflow project, and the Webflow project, it's called, give me 1 second. The Webflow project, it's called Stream Google Maps API, the Webflow.io. So I know that this domain, it's the only one that I want Google to allow to consume the API key. I don't want anybody else to be able to use the API key. Not other websites, not other people, just this specific domain. So in this case, I'll pick this. If I need to put the HTTPS, let's see. Specify one or more referred websites. Wildcard characters are acceptable for authorizing all subdomains. Specify HTTPS. You must use a special representation for other types of refer. Okay. So in this case, I'll just pick the entire URL. I just want to allow the specific URL. Oh, done. Okay, failed to restrict the API key. Let's see what happened. Visit the API key. Let's see. The key is unrestricted. Let's do it again. If you happen to not be able to restrict it directly, you can always access the credentials from, oh, I can see. Did you see that Google somehow changed the project? I want to be on the Stream Google Maps API. Okay. Okay, this is very weird. It seems like Google bugged here and it did not create the API key for this project. Okay. Okay. Sometimes it bugs like that. If you have multiple Google accounts, it's a pain in the ass. We'll just say this was stream, I think. Go ahead, do it again. Stream credentials. It seems that the credentials that I created were not created in the correct project, so I'll do it again. I'll create some credentials. I'll create an API key. Everything that I'm saying again, it's in the documentation of Google Maps, so you can create an API key by going to the credentials page, creating an API key, and after that, we will see the credentials. So let's try it. Okay, new API key. Since that the previous one was not was not used. I'll check it out later just in case that we left it activated because we don't want that. We want to deactivate the previous API key. Very important. Um, okay, we have the API key and let's access it. Okay, now we're good. Okay, let's say Google Maps API key, and we want to restrict it. And we want to restrict it to the domain that we set. Restrict the key to just Maps JavaScript API. And I think it's the same one for everyone. Okay, cool. That's it. Save failed. Come on. You know, when you're doing a stream, something always fails. Let's see. Let's have some patience. Sorry about everything that it's happening here. Okay.
With no
let's
real
see.
error message, right? That's not a very good error message.
Yeah, it's just saying, okay, if left blank, your API key will accept requests from your website. Nope. Let's try, what if we do it like this? Don't restrict the key. No. Okay. Let's do it again. Okay. Let me think. If I cannot restricting now, I'll just follow along with the stream without restricting the API key. But please do restrict it, everyone. Never leave an API key unrestricted. This is very important. Okay, I'll do it again, just one last time. And it's not working. If you do, okay, let me try this. No. I don't know if I'm doing something wrong or is it Google that's just not working. So for now, stay with us. I'm just going to take this API key and use it. Please don't spam it. Please don't hack us during the stream. And after the stream has ended, I'll just cancel this API key to make sure that nobody can continue using. Please try to restrict the API key yourselves. There's something wrong here, and I'm pretty sure that I'm doing it correctly. So something wrong is happening with Google. But I'll just pick this API key. I think that I already stored it. Yep, it's the one that we stored. So we're ready to move along. I don't want to spend more time checking on this. Okay, cool. Let's move on. We're good. We're set up. No, actually, no. We need to put the API key on the side. And what it's the last bit of the documentation is already saying add the API key to your request. So what we want to do is just pick the script and change the key parameter for your API key. And in my case, I already have it set up here. So the only thing that I will do is change it in here and we're good. And let's publish this. Okay. Whew. Do you know how bad of a time I have when something goes wrong during a live stream? It just makes me sweat. But okay, we're good. We're good. Let's just move along. We're ready to code. We have the API key. It was a pain in the ass to set it up, but we kind of did it. We put it on the Webflow project, and now we're good to start coding. We're good to start doing stuff. Obviously, the first thing that we want to do is just put the map on the site, right? We want to somewhere on the project put that map. And in my case, I did some homework and I already created a very basic structure with just a container and the target where I want to put the map. So Google is going to basically ask me, okay, where do you want me to put the map? And in my case, I have this element which I added an attribute that just fs element map target. So if you don't understand why I'm using an attribute, and not a CSS class, go ahead and check out the previous stream that we did, because we gave some valuable information about this. And we're good to go. In my case, I'm using, as always, the developer starter. So if you want to follow along and use the same setup that I'm using, just feel free to clone the template. Joe, if you don't mind to share the starter repo in the comments, that would be great. And I'll zoom a little bit. Okay. Oh. So first of all, let's just make sure that this is working. And in my case, let's just console log hey to make sure that the code is running. And I'll run pnpm dev, and this will spin up a local host server with the file with the code. And I'll just pick this and I'll put it in a project because I did not do it before. So let's say script, defer, source, and let's close the script. And in here, I'll just put the file that I'm using to code. Cool. Let's wait for a second because I want to make sure that at least that simple console log is running. So we'll open the console and we'll do a lot of zoom. Okay, hey, nice. This means that the code is ready. We can start coding stuff and it will run on the site when the page loads. So in this case, okay, first of all, we're using TypeScript. And the benefit of TypeScript is that we have auto completion for, whenever you're interacting with any kind of variable, methods, things like that. And in our case, we're going to be working with the library that is located in the window, which means that we will have to type window dot google dot maps and see what is happening. I'm already getting auto completion. The reason is because I've also done some homework and I've installed the type definitions of Google Maps in my project. But if you want to do it, the only thing that you need to do is just go to the terminal. If you don't know how to open the terminal, you can just go to terminal, no terminal, and that's it. And in here, you just need to install the types that I think it's npm add types / Google, like that. And this is, it's not tabs Google, it's Google Maps. Sorry. Let's do it again. npm add types / Google dot maps. And this will install this dev dependency in your project. Actually, you should add it as a dev dependency. So let me explain what I'm doing. When you install a dependency, you can decide whether it's something that you want to bundle in the project or it's something that you want to just use for development purposes. And in our case, this library is just some type definitions that we want to use for development purposes, which means that we just want to add it as a dev dependency. So you want to pass the capital D flag like I'm doing, and then you can install it, google.maps, like that. And this will make sure that this dependency is not bundled anywhere in the compile code. Okay. I hope that I did not confuse a lot of people with this, but now we're good to start coding. So, okay, half an hour later, let's create the map. Let's do that. We want to create a map, and for that, we will just create a map. What's happening here is that we are, and this should, is it async? It's probably async, but we will have to wait until this is loaded, probably. Give me a second. We want to wait until, let's just put it without async for now. We'll say later we'll have time to talk about performance optimizations. But what's going to happen here is that the library from Google that it's being loaded here, it's going to append to the window the proper constructor objects so we can initialize the Google map. And in our case, what we want to do is say, okay, window.google.maps, and let's create a new map. So we'll say new map like this. And this is asking me for the element where I want to mount the map on. So let's query it. Let's say, okay, come on, map element. And this is going to be a query selector for attribute, that the attribute is called fs element equals to map, I think it was. Second, map target. Map target. So let's say map target like this. And this is going to be an HTML element. And if you follow along on the list stream, we want to make sure that this element exists. So if there is no map element, for now, we will just abort. We will return from this. And now we're good to say, okay, there is a map element. I want to put the new map in the map element, inside this map element. So let's say, let's try it. Bam, bam, bam. It would be good if I added some height to it. So let's say 50 VH for now. I think there was no height to it. Okay. Cool. Since that we have something, it's kind of not working correctly. So we'll see how to fix this. But for now, Google is already detecting that we have an element and we want to put the map on the element. So let me check 1 second. Yeah, we want to center this and we want to give it a zoom. Okay, give me a city, Joe. Somewhere.
Cancun.
Cancun. Oh. Okay, so we'll center the map in Cancun. So let's just pick this. If you want to get latitude and longitude from Google Maps, you just need to right click on anywhere. And in this case, this is already telling me, okay, this is 21.16649 and minus 86.85232. So these are the numbers that we want to get. And actually, I got them here. So we want to center the map in here. We'll pass this option. We'll say, okay, center. And this center will accept a latitude, which is this number in here, and a longitude. Longitude, which is in here, like that. And I did something wrong, I think. Okay. And okay, this is not a string, it's a number, like that. Cool. But let's try it again. And what I said now is, okay, we want to center the map to Cancun. I'm saying mount the map and center it with the latitude and longitude of Cancun. And the last thing we'll say is, okay, I want the zoom level to be 1 for now. Okay, now it's working. What was missing was the zoom level. Because in when you set up a new map, you need to specify the location where you want to put the map and also the zoom level of that map. And in this case, I just set it up to 1, but let's try 10. A little bit better. Let's do 20, for example. And that was too much. So let's try 15. That's a little bit better. Okay, I think we could even reduce it to 12 or something like that. Cool. So now we have the base. Now we have a map that's pointing to a location and that it has a specific zoom level. That's good. Now we have the base to start doing other stuff. We can start locating different places. We can start adding pins on the map. We can actually, we can keep working with the map if we wanted to, tweak it. How is it looking? Because the nice thing about working with the Google Maps API is that you can take this map and you can customize it as long as you want. You can change the colors of it. You can change the controls of it. You can allow or disallow to zoom, or things like that. If you're curious about everything that you can do, you can always, here in the map, there's this second argument that we're passing to the constructor, that it accepts all the configurations that you want to pass to the map. So, and if we start checking, you can see that we have background color, clickable icons, control size, if it's draggable with a cursor, and if it should have full screen controls, if it should have a heading. Let's try a heading. Full Finsweet stream. I don't know. Heading it's for a number. The heading for aerial imagery in degrees. That was not the purpose of it. Um, Everything it's defined here. So if you check the description, you will see what does that mean. So in this case, for example, this is telling me whether the map should allow fractional zoom levels. I don't even know what's that, but we can check. We can tweak the styles, for example. We can tweak the tilt of it. Can we zoom control? Let's say that we cannot zoom control. I don't know, for any reason. And in our case, because I've disabled zoom control, you can see that there is no zoom controls in the map. So we could disable everything. We could disable the strip view. We could disable the full screen. We could disable the toggle up here, or we could enable everything. That's completely up to you. But for now, let's just keep the zoom control. And I think that we could just start doing things. But I think that I've been talking for a long time. Is there anybody who has any questions?
Um, well, there may be a question, but first
Okay,
I want to back up for a second. There was a suggestion to add the asterisk in the beginning of the link um, to prevent the API key from being used.
let's
So if you
try
go
it.
back to blocking this API key, if you were to put a asterisk in the beginning, somebody said they did
Asterisk
this
like
last week.
this, but well, the thing is that the asterisk would work when it's for all subdomains of a domain. But in our case,
Yes.
if we do this, we're saying that we are allowing all Webflow.io subdomains. So any
Yeah, I
Webflow.io project.
just
Still better.
there's a comment that says somebody was able to do that. Add asterisk in the beginning of your link
Uh,
and at the end. Wait 3 to 5 minutes for API to actually be activated. I did a basic maps integration a couple days ago and it worked.
I'm just
So
sending
maybe
some
just
feedback
we'll
because
just try it
that one it's
for this user. If you add the full webflow.io and just leave it in the beginning.
oh, so you mean like that,
Yeah.
and the
And just
asterisk also like that?
yeah. Yeah. But yeah, maybe
No,
not the period. Yeah, okay.
let's try just for the sake of debugging a
Yeah,
little
no.
bit. But I don't think any of
Yeah.
these will work.
Okay. That's fine.
I generally
Wanted to
think
try.
that there's something wrong with
Mhm.
this. Still, if you're watching this, not live, but you come back after some time, if I happen to solve this and I realize that this was my fault and not Google Maps, I will add it in the video description. Some explanation about why this did happen. But yeah, we'll try it again. We can try it again before ending the stream, just in case.
Sure. Okay.
Okay.
Let's get back to the action. There is one question. I'm not exactly sure what this question is. Naked Tech says, I think this same concept works with Mapbox framework, but has way cooler UI. And
Mm.
then And then Emily says, to clarify, can we use this attribute with other APIs like Mapbox too, not just Google Map API?
This is not an attribute. I think that the he or she, sorry, was confused because this is an attribute, and perhaps we're using some attributes library, but this is not the
Yeah,
case. I'm just
right.
applying the attribute to query the element.
Okay.
So basically,
Yeah,
yeah, the code is
that's what I
just,
figured.
yep,
Oh,
the
the
code is
code in the
just
starter
saying.
kit. Oh yeah. Okay.
Go ahead, sorry.
I think can you query like this with Mapbox too? And maybe I think that's not exactly in the context of this episode, but can you do what you're doing here with Mapbox, the same method?
Yeah, I believe that it's pretty much the same. So
Probably, right?
Mapbox
Yeah.
has its own API, and what we want to do is you have an element on the page, you want to define some kind of selector for querying that element, so you can still add an attribute to it. And then when you
Mhm.
got the element, you just mount the Mapbox instance on that element. I believe that it's the same approach. I believe that it's
Yeah.
it's the same. Um,
Cool.
okay,
Okay, let's continue.
shall we? Yeah, shall we move on?
Yeah, doing
Okay,
great.
so obviously, right now the only thing that we've done so far is create the map instance, and obviously see how we can customize it. Again, there are a lot of things that you can tweak here, and I think we're not diving into all of them because it's a lot of information. But not only you can create the instance, you can interact with the instance. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to store the instance in a variable. So instance like that. Let's call it just map. And this instance that we have, this map, will offer a bunch of methods that we can use for triggering any kind of actions. Sorry, any kind of actions. And you know we have get bounds, get center, get div, get heading, whatever. But also we could set, for example, set a different center of the map. So perhaps now programmatically, after the user clicks somewhere, we want to change the center of the map and move it somewhere else. And this is a good example for a store location. The user searches for something, and then you want to pick a store and show it in the map. You want to change the location. So let's say, for example, just a very simple, very basic button, and we'll say, where did the button go? What button? Okay, we'll say go to, give me another city.
New York.
New York. Yeah, it's basically your
These are the
life
only
that we're
2 I
sharing
know.
today. Okay, so we want a button that when clicking that button, we want to go to New York, from Cancun to New York. So obviously, we need to define this button. So we'll say fs element, and we'll, I don't know, button New York, like that. And let's publish this. So now what I want to do is, okay, let's get this button, New York button, that it would be document query selector. This will be fs element equals to button New York. I think it was like that. And this is an anchor link. So shouldn't I forget how to write pressure like that? Okay. So what we want to do is get the button, and when the user clicks on the button, we want to change the center of the map from Cancun to New York. So we'll say New York button, add event listener. Let's make sure that the button exists. So we'll say that if there is no button, we'll just return like that. And this event listener will be a click. And did I do something wrong? Oh, if there is no New York button. Okay. And what we want to do is, first of all, we want to prevent the click in case that, there was a link or something, but it's not applicable here. And now what we want to say is, okay, the user clicks the button. So let's say map.setCenter, and the center is going to go to a latitude and a longitude, like that. So we need to get these coordinates from somewhere. And in the easiest thing that you can do is just go to a regular Google map and search for New York, like this. And if you just right click on Empire State, for example, you have always the coordinates as the first option. Or you can also get them from the URL up in here. But I think it's a little bit small, so people might not see it. But I'll just pick this. And so this is this. This is the latitude, and this is the longitude, like that. Okay, so recap. We got a button. When we click the button, we want to just switch the center of the map to wherever that button is pointing. In this case, it's New York. So let's try it. We have the button. Go to New York. Yay, we went to New York. Cool. So same as setting the center, there is a lot of things that you can do with the map. Let's inspect. You got center, you can change heading, you can change the options, you can move the user to strip view, you can change the zoom of the map, you can do a lot of stuff. And obviously, if we start inspecting, we probably will see more stuff. And I think that you can also listen for click events in the map. So you can add event listeners to say, okay, when the user clicks on a city, I want something to happen. Or when a user clicks on a specific marker on the map, I want something to happen. So this is something very interesting that you can explore too. But I think that let's move on, because so far we have just talked about a couple things. And the next thing that I would like to do is, okay, we have the map. I want now to allow the user to search for a location and show that location in the map. So let's do it. Let's say that. And in our case, we have the map. Let me add a background to this so we know that this is the map, like this. And we will add a form here with just an input. And the submit button is going to say search. And this, it will be just a regular input where we will say search for a place like this. Cool. So we could just search without auto completion, but I think it's cool to have both, just have the input and show auto completions to the user. And then when submitting the form, we can just move the map to wherever the user is searching. So in our case, let's locate this, and I'll say fs element, and this will be search input. This now I'm just adding a selector to the elements so we can interact with them with custom code. And I also want to get the form, so we'll say fs element. This will be search form. This. That's it. Pretty simple. Let's jump to the code. Let's keep the New York button. But for now, so we will get the form and we'll say document dot query selector document and element. We want to get the search form and the input. Yes, this will be search input. And because this is TypeScript, we need to define the type of the element. In this case, it's a form element for the form. And for the input, it's an HTML input element. Cool. And let's make sure that these elements exist on the page. So we'll say that if there is no form or there is no input, for now, just escape the function. Don't do anything. Just return. Cool. So let's try to divide to think about the actions that we need to do. We have a form. We have an input. We want the user to be able to type in the input, show the user some auto-completion for that input, and then when the user clicks on search, we want to get the location that the user has inputted and search in the map. And we will just do the same thing that we did for New York. We'll just move the center of the map to whatever place the user has searched. Cool. Hey, so we have a bunch of tasks to do. Let's write that down. Let's do it again. So we want to add auto completion to the input. So let's do it. We want to, in this case, we want to use something that it's called Google Maps Places Autocomplete. So I'll say autocomplete, and this will be a new instance of window.google.maps.places.autocomplete, like this. And this autocomplete is going to accept an input. So right now, the only thing that I've done is tell the JavaScript library of Google, hey, please init autocompletion on an input, and that's it. Now, you will see that there's a small difference between what I did just now here and what we did before with the Google Map. One thing of how the Google Maps library works is that it has the base library, which is just the Maps API. But then on top of that, there are additional libraries that you can load. And you can imagine the same as, for example, FS attributes, the CMS attributes from Finsweet, where you have multiple attributes like filtering, sorting. Well, I just forgot about the rest, but you have a lot of attributes that you can apply, but you only load the ones that you want, right? If you want to sort, you just load for CMS sort. If you want to filter and sort, you load for CMS filter and CMS sort. So this way, the page is more performant because you're just loading for the actual things that you're using. So in our case, Google Maps has the base library, which is just for interacting with the map. But then anything that comes on top of this, auto completion, calculating where a place is located, getting the distance from different places, adding distances or routes in a map, things that are additional features. Google is going to ask us to load that library specifically on the page. And the way that Google does this is if we check the documentation, we go back here and we scroll down, we will see that there's a section that it's called libraries. Libraries, it's for drawing, geometry, joining, sharing, local context, markers, places, and visualization. So these are just some additional libraries that you can load on top of Google Maps to add these extra functionalities. And in our case, we want to use the places library because it's the one that contains everything related to searching for places, auto completion, calculating distances, getting a specific coordinates from a place, things like this. And the way that you do it is you take the original script that you added already to the page, and you just add a query parameter with libraries equals to the name of the libraries that you want to load. In our case, we want to say, okay, include the library that it's called places because it's the one that we are accessing. And I think that I already did it. Let me give me a second. Okay, this is bugged. I already did it, and it will look like this. So we have the script, we have the API key, and then we have libraries equals to places, meaning that we're taking this places library and we are also loading it on the page, not only the base library. I think that this was already published, but that's fine. Cool. So now that we have the the places library loaded on the site, we can now access window.google.maps.places.autocomplete, and we can create this instance. And we can also pass some options. And the options that we want to pass, it's let's just not pass any options for now. Let's just check what happens. So let's load this. And if I did it correctly, we could. So this page can load Google Maps correctly. Probably there's some error or something explaining. This API project, it's not authorized to use this API. Okay. Let's check the documentation. This is saying places library in maps JavaScript API. Getting started. Enable APIs and services. Okay, so Google, it's if you check the documentation, we got an error here because it's saying, okay, you did not activate, even though I added the query param to load the library, the API key is still not authorized to use this. So we need to go back to the Google Cloud platform, and we'll say we need to search for the Places API. Let's search for it. Okay, Places API. And we want to enable this. I think that this is quite cumbersome, especially when you're doing a tutorial like this, because you're telling people you need to do a lot of stuff. But then at the end of the day, this is very good because we have a lot of control over what can people do with a specific project that we're creating, and you're not bound to potential, things that you did not know that could happen or people could use. Okay, now it's enabled. We have Maps JavaScript API enabled, and we have the Places API enabled. So now we can, let's try it again. And let's search for New York. This API project is still not authorized. Okay. APIs. It should be authorized. Because the key is included. Let's try it again, just in case that it took. Okay. It seems that there's an issue here. The Maps JavaScript API is not activated on your project. You may need to enable the Maps JavaScript API. That's done. What else?
We may have to.
API not
We may have
activated.
to wait.
I was
Maybe
thinking that
a waiting thing. So maybe let's continue writing the code as if it worked, and then maybe by the end of writing that code, it will.
if you
Oh, there we
see,
go.
yeah, it's still throwing error, but it's kind of weird. But yeah, it took like 3 minutes, something like that, to activate. But yeah, we now can at least start. Yeah.
Nice.
Hey, cool. Okay, cool. Okay, so what we've done so far is just the auto completion. So now we are able to search. We can search for anywhere. I don't know, like where I live, data. We can search for anything, and still we're getting errors. But this is weird, and it's like sometimes it works and sometimes it does not. And I would say that it's a matter of just letting Google process everything that happened. The next thing to do would be to just submit the form and then read whatever the user selected correctly without this breaking. And after doing that, just centering the place in the Google Maps. So perhaps what we could do, Joe, because there's a couple things that I want to check. restriction of the of the API keys, and why is it not this not working correctly. And perhaps what we could do is in another stream just pick these bases and just continue developing more complex solutions on top of it, because I know that this is already in time. We are
Can
already
we
at the hour.
can we finish with the writing of the code though?
Let
Is
me
that okay?
try.
Let's do it where you type in the name, you click the name, and then it
Yep.
goes to that location on the map.
Yep. Sure. Okay. So we have the auto completion. Now, what we would want to do is, so first of all, check when the user submits the form. So then we know that we need to search for that place. And after that, we would get the input value. So whatever the user typed and selected from the auto completion, and then center the map to the user's requested place, like this. Okay, let's do it super quick. This is a form, and we will add an event listener for submit. And want to say, okay, when the form is submitted, first of all, we want to prevent the form from submitting. The first one, prevent default, is just the native prevention. And the second one, stop propagation, it's because Webflow has some JavaScript on top of the forms. And we don't want Webflow to process the form as usually it does. You know, that you submit the form and it sends it to the contact lists of the project. We don't want to do this. So in our case, we will stop Webflow from doing anything at all. And we'll say, okay, let's get the value now that the user has submitted. We have two ways of doing this. The first way is from the autocomplete, we can get the place. So if the user selected something from the autocompletion, we can get the place by doing this, autocomplete.getPlace. I think, let me check it again, but I would say that it does. So let's just console log this value. Let's do it. Let's do it super quick. We'll have this. We will hope that this does not break. And it did. But let's try now. Okay, still, I was able to submit, and look what happened. We got a name here of the place that was inputted. So this is done by using this autocomplete.getPlace. Now, it could happen that the user types something from here, but does what the hell? Does does a street call like this? But imagine that the user does not select anything at all from the auto completion. And in that case, what would happen is that, can you see? This is still the old value. Or if I refresh the page and I just type something random and I don't select anything from auto completion, this is undefined. You know, then we have a second thing that we would have to do, which would be, okay, pick what the user selected wrote, and instead of relying on autocompletion from Google, let's try to locate that place ourselves. And to do that, we would need some extra code with the Places API, and I think that that's too much. So for now, let's just remember that selecting through the autocomplete, it's not the only way that the user can potentially input something, because it could not select anything from the list, and think that you need to handle that case also. But for now, let's just assume that the user always will select that value. So we have that value, and now what we want to do is, okay, we know that the user has inputted this value. Now we want to get the coordinates of this place. And to do that, actually, I was missing to pass some options to the autocomplete instance. And we want to say that the fields, we want to pass the geometry. And this is just saying, okay, whatever the user serves in the results, I want to get the geometry and the geocodes from that place. And this is you can find more information about this if you dive into the library. Perhaps if the next day we have more time, I can do it. But now that I've passed these options here in the autocomplete, now the autocomplete will also return not only the name as it did before, but it will also return the geometry, which contains the location with the latitude and the longitude, which is what we need to center the map then with this result. So we'll say, okay, now that we have this value, we'll say map dot set center, and we want to pass the geometry. In this case, I think that we can say just dot value dot geometry dot location. I think that it should be fine. Let's try it for now. And this is going to fail because it's probably it could be undefined, as we said before. That the result could not be provided because the user did not select anything. And in our case, because we're assuming that this will always be the case, I'm just going to assume that. I'm just going to say, okay, this will always be here. Let's just forget about the error that we're getting. And let's try it again. Let's try New York from here. And let's search for this. Cool. We got the place. Let's try something somewhere else. Let's start with Z. Zurich. Cool. We got Zurich. And we could just move, keep doing this. So just as a quick recap, what is happening is we're getting the auto-completion geometry result, and we're passing that to the Google Maps so we can center the map to whatever the user inputted. Now, in the next stream, what we can do is make this a little bit better and add some extra logic to make sure that when the user types something random and there is no autocomplete dropdown, we can still locate that place by making an API call to Google and asking to Google, hey, I have this random value and I want you to tell me what the hell is this? Where is this? And in that case, it would be the same as having our own auto-completion without relying on the user to click on something on the list. And then we will be able to just, center that in the map or to do many other things. Whew, okay. I think the code was kind of there for now. I'm always super stressed. I'm seeing, I'm watching like the clock countdown and trying to go as fast as I can, trying to explain everything so people is not confused. But I think that this is quite a good base for people to start playing around with this.
Yeah, that is definitely nice, and that gives a great question from Emily Frazier. Does this get pushed up to the starter repo after the stream? Would be great to continue building on this. Thank you 1,000% over these build days.
You know what I was thinking? Because for now, every single stream, I've just wiped out the entire starter demo, the repo that I'm doing. But perhaps it would be cool to have just a single mono repo with all the streams, with a date classified by folders, so people can play around with stuff like that. I think that we'll do that, Emily. I'll take
That's
this
nice.
code and I'll just push it. I'll push it in the starter demo repo, and we'll use this one. Perhaps I will change the name to something like streams demos, stream codes. I don't know. We'll think about that. So everyone who's watching this in 1 year from now, you can just still go to that repo and find the code there.
Nice.
Yeah, I think that's
And
the
you will
best
have
option.
to have your own API key. We will not leave our open API key available.
Yes, that's correct. After this stream has ended, I'll just wipe that API key, or at least I will try again to protect it, because I don't want everyone now start using that same API key for their sites. Please don't do it. Okay, but still, thank you for being here. I still see a lot of people still hanging out with us, which means that somehow they're still interested in Google Maps, so which is nice. I'm curious to see if somebody will now jump in and say, "Hey, I just built this after this stream." It would be super cool to know and to see it. Go ahead and share it, please, if you happen to do it.
And there's a question from Duncan Prince. So you can have a drop down with pre selected locations. And I said, yes, definitely.
Hmm.
And I think that would be a great use case for using what you've just built. And with just a little bit more code on top of that, you can have your drop down with pre selected locations.
Yeah. Imagine, for example, a collection list where you just store a bunch of places and you store the coordinates of each place. So the latitude and the longitude. And then you just do the same thing that we did here when clicking on go to New York. You know that we just setting the map to a specific, let's move the map. When we click to go to New
Yeah.
York, we're going to New York. So you can do the same thing, but just picking the coordinates from the CMS. So that's already something
Nice.
for locating places that it's really cool and very simple. You can already build with what we did today.
Yeah, that button, that go to New York button, you can arrange that in a UI to make it look super custom, but it can just be a whole
Yeah.
bunch of buttons with that client's locations. So location this, and this, and you can have a little filter of those locations with attributes, and it really wouldn't be that much custom code. You saw how simple that go to New York button was. So yeah, this you can really do a lot when you get creative with the UI.
I feel that, as I said at the beginning of the stream, I just shared like 5% of what I thought that I would have enough time to share. So if people still interested in building more advanced stuff with Google Maps, just let us know, because we have, list of stuff that we want to talk about where we can always change preferences and just switch whatever topic we're discussing for a day, for a specific day.
Nice. So we have a lot of positive comments here. Thank you everybody for staying with us and watching this build live. It's really nice. I think a lot of people are saying that they like when you make the mistakes. Debugging and sharing your thought process is invaluable. So it's not a bad thing, right? Because everybody makes mistakes. There's a lot of mistakes. So to see how you
Hmm.
approach those mistakes is education in itself. So, yeah, great, Duncan. Great to hear that. So many ideas just from this segment. And
Hmm.
if you're not there yet, if you're watching this and you say, hey, I'm just not at the point where I can do this, just watching and absorbing this information is going to help you when you do get to that point. So, stick with it. Just, you know, watching this happen every week, it's going to turn you into a thinker, a more technical thinker, which is valuable in all areas of your professional career. So great. Anything else, Alex, for the audience before we sign off today?
I think I said everything already. I just want to thank everyone to be here. I always want to do that. So thank you, everyone. If you happen to want something, just shout out in Twitter. Just ask us anything, and we'll probably answer you. So let's get engaged. This is something cool that we can do.
Awesome. Cool. So join us next Tuesday, this upcoming Tuesday. I'll be doing a live build, I think, of the Apple podcast page. So this will not be technical. This is not coding, but I'm going to do a live walkthrough using
Hmm.
Client First V2. There's some interactions in there. We'll talk about naming your interactions in a clean way. And yeah, we're just going to continue with these live builds. They're doing great. Everybody loves them. So we'll keep live building for you. Next Friday, I told myself that I would come prepared with all the topics of each week, and I didn't do that. So next
I
Friday, I don't know what we're doing. What are we doing?
I could quickly check it. Give me
Okay.
30 seconds. I'll check it. Yeah. Content calendar. We have a full calendar with this stuff planned. The next Friday, it's building a JavaScript calculator in Webflow. That's what's planned.
Nice. Great. That's super valuable. We'll integrate that into a form. This will again be something you can charge your clients. Don't underestimate the
Yeah.
power of technical knowledge and the power of customization. This turns into an invoice item. So very exciting. If anybody has any questions, do not hesitate to reach out in our pro channel on Twitter or wherever you can find us. And we will be back next week. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Bye.